Hey everybody, Mark Dawes here, and today I want to talk to you about handcuffs, and I want to thank Doug Melia for putting this post up on Facebook. The post is Police Delays Prompt Handcuff Use, and it's also on a BBC website here where it says Cumbria security staff handcuff suspects waiting for police. So handcuffs are back in the news once again, and I'm sure there's controversy on both sides of the fence with this, but I've done a lot of stuff on this in the past. I've got videos out there, so if you Google them, I mean, one is called, I'll just check it for you here, how restraint equipment can reduce risk, handcuffs and Scottish law, is it illegal in the UK for a private citizen to carry handcuffs? So I've got quite a lot of stuff out there, and if you Google it, it'll actually, you'll find it no problem at all. But the other reason that's prompted me for doing this is I was working with a restraint team recently in a particular organisation. They were having a particular problem with a specific client group, male client group, very strong male service users they're working with, and one of the issues is they would drop to their feet and fall backwards in a corridor when they were being escorted to another unit. And it was getting involved, it was getting the staff involved with a protracted and prolonged restraint. Now, if you know anything about restraint, you know that a prolonged restraint increases the risk to all concerned, and also the risk of position asphyxiation and death. So they were looking at ways of managing this, and I said, handcuff them. Why don't you just handcuff them? It will negate any risk. And they didn't realise they were allowed to do it. But the NICE guidelines support that, and the hospital policy supported that. So we handcuffed them, or we showed them how to handcuff, and it actually did away with it and sorted the problem out and became a control measure. Now, the interesting thing about this is they said, well, is that legal? Are we legally allowed to do it? So I explained to them, as I'll explain to you now, handcuffs are basically a temporary restraining device. It's a mechanical equipment governed by the same laws that we use force with. So common law and criminal law is primarily what, as UK citizens, we are justified to use handcuffs under. Now think about this, if I actually put handcuffs on you, then I've removed your liberty, normally to stop you from going where you please, and I've arrested you, I've detained you against your will. If I lock you in a room, I've done the same thing. If I lock you in a room and won't let you out because you're going to harm someone, it's the same thing. If a restraint team grabs hold of someone and restrains them so they can't hurt someone, but they can't move, it's the same thing. So the only difference is one is mechanical and the other's physical, and the other one's environmental. It's a locked door. So you don't need any special powers or any special laws to cover you. There is no Handcuffed Act, by the way. There's no Handcuff Act of Parliament. It comes under common and criminal law. But if you're at work, the law that does cover this is the Health and Safety at Work Act. Now, the Health and Safety at Work Act is a piece of legislation. It is an act of Parliament, and that tells us what we must and must not do. Then underneath that, we've got regulations, like the Management of Health and Safety at Work regulations, that tell us more specifically how we extend the duty of care to staff and other people, and one of the ways you do that is by undertaking a risk assessment. And if the risk assessment says you need to control someone who is presenting extreme challenging behaviour or violence, then you've got to look at control measures. Now, restraint is also a manual handling activity, and for the purpose of the definition, they define a load in the manual handling regulations as a human person, a human object, and they even goes so far as to say a patient. So if we have a human person, a patient, for example, exhibiting challenging behaviour and violence, and they have to be restrained, that becomes a manual handling operation, so you have to do a manual handling risk assessment. Now, underneath the manual handling operations regulations, you now have the guidance on the regulations, and these tell us more specifically how to comply with the regulations, which by doing so we comply with the Act of Parliament. And they say this: automation or mechanisation. And the regulations actually state, if, so far as is reasonably practicable, handling of the load cannot be avoided, then can the operations be either automated or mechanised. So it's advising us how to comply with the law, and it's saying you should automate and you should mechanise this actual control procedure. So there's justification for the use of handcuffs. Now, I spoke to the HSE about this years ago, and I said, if at work we need to do this, can handcuffs be justified as work equipment? And they came back, the Health and Safety Executive came back and they said this: handcuffs may be considered as work equipment and subject to the provision and use of equipment regulations. And that's straight from the Health and Safety Executive. Now, many years ago, just to end on a funny, I also contacted the Association of Chief Police Officers, I contacted Scotland Yard, and myself and my dear friend, who's now departed sadly, we wrote to every police service area in the UK. Some responded, some didn't. And we asked them the question: is it legal in the UK for non-police staff to carry in use handcuffs? And it took us quite a long time to get a reply. And we finally got a reply from an inspector, who was the inspector in charge of the public order section at Scotland Yard, and his reply was, yes, Non-police staff can carry and use handcuffs. There's no law that prohibits it. Obviously at work you've got to comply with health and safety. But he also stated the fact that they cannot be illegal because you can buy them in a sex shop. So that was the response I got from the head of the public order section at Scotland Yard, who was representing the Association of Chief Police Officers. So there you have it in a nutshell. Now, if you have any questions about this, leave a comment below. Thanks once again, Doug, for mentioning that. On that point, Doug Mealy is running a course on the 6th of March and on the 15th of March at the Lillishall National Sports Centre. He's running it in conjunction with us, and it is a handcuff and soft cuff trainer course. It comes with a BTEC Level 3 qualification. Also, Doug is going to be demonstrating, and if you want to, he'll teach you how to use the soft restraint kit, the soft restraint belts, and the soft cuffs, which are great pieces of kit. Now, if you are a restraint trainer, control restraint trainer, physical intervention trainer, PMVA trainer, or whatever, having the knowledge about what you can and can't do with this stuff is something that's valuable in your toolbox of knowledge. Having the skills and knowing how to train people and stuff enhances that knowledge. Now, you may never have to use them, but at least if you've got the knowledge and having to do this stuff, then you're qualified and competent to give that advice, and that's what these training courses are about. I'll leave a link below the video somewhere, or in the text, or above the video somewhere, and if you are interested in coming along and you want to be qualified as a BTEC Level 3 handcuff and soft cuff trainer, or a BTEC with a BTEC Level 3 in the soft restraint belt, the soft restraint kit, then you're most welcome to come along. Get in touch with us, we'll explain it all to you, or go to our website. Any questions at all, leave a comment below. If you like what you hear, please like this video, please comment, I'm interested in your comments, and share it far and wide. Thanks ever so much, speak to you soon.